Good morning, everyone. This is the morning meeting. Welcome. It's Monday, September 8th. It's 9 o'clock in the East, 6 o'clock in Los Angeles, and some other time in Moscow. Thank you for joining. Sean is off today. Larry is here. Larry O'Connor, the Larry O'Connor Playhouse. What's the other show called, Larry?
Extravaganza, we like to call it.
Extravaganza. Yeah.
Just Larry. It's
Just Larry. Just Larry. And Dan is here. And welcome in, everybody. Larry, how do you feel about our biggest news story of the day? Howard Stern pranked everybody, pretended Andy Cohen was taking off over his Sirius XM show, but the king of all media reigns supreme. Howard is staying on Sirius XM. Your thoughts, Larry?
As a longtime radio professional, can I just say I hate radio pranks? They're stupid.
Yeah.
And so it was, and I don't think nobody believed that Andy Cohen was going to.
I did. I did.
You bought into it, really?
The branding of Andy 100 completely tricked me.
Larry, I thought you loved America. I can't believe you hate radio prank.
Dan, how do you feel about Howard staying?
Great. I grew up with Don Imus and Howard Stern, going to school in the car in the morning with my father. So I think it's great.
Yeah.
Only in America.
Folks, welcome in. This is the morning meeting. It's a different show than other shows. We believe in peace, love, and understanding. Thank you for all your kind notes and letters about RFKJ. I'll be talking about that in just a moment. And thank you for being part of our community. If you'd like to be in on the conversation, you're here on the two-way platform. Please raise your hand. Already some great hands up. Last week we had a day with all new people. Maybe that'll happen again. We shall see. If you're watching on YouTube or X, peace, love, and understanding. Maureen is up early. I can't wait to talk to Maureen about all things FBI. Don't raise your hand on the other platforms like YouTube, but also peace, love, and understanding, presumption of grace to all. That'll be a through line, a continuing theme for the program. We'll run through the news of the day like they do in the network news division's morning meetings, and then kick things around a bit, and then take your questions and comments. Eager to have you participate. So again, raise your hand. Now, a word from our sponsor, Cozy Earth. You've heard me extol the bedding. 100-day night sleep trial and 10-year warranty on the bedding. But you know my view of the pants, right? The Cozy Earth pants. Don't take my word for it. You can divide my audience on two-way tonight and on this program into two groups. Those of you who have heeded my wise words that these are the best pants you'll ever own, and those of you who foolishly have not yet taken advantage of our massive discount. Let me read you an email from one of our viewers. Here we go. I hate clothes, never shop, typical guy, but love two-way. So when you pitch Cozy Earth, I bought a pair of their pants, the Coles. They rock. Because I don't go out in public in my PJs, unlike several of my kids, probably the most comfortable pants I'll ever wear out and about. Great fit. My wife says they look great. Then again, she married me. Anyway, thanks for the recommendation. That from a happy customer. Follow the lead of this person, one of your two-way community member colleagues who bought the pants. Upgrade now. Go to CozyEarth.com. Use the code two-way for, 40% off. Larry, 40% off to get the best pants of your life. Again, CozyEarth.com. Go there. Code two-way, 40% off. Telling you, do it. Real life, built for real life, made to keep up with yours. Cozy Earth. All right, let's get
Did that email really begin with "I hate clothes"?
Yes. Well, I hate buying. Wow. No, I hate buying clothes.
Oh, buying clothes.
I left out the buying. We were.
Oh no. Here's what it is. It's I hate clothes, never shop. Typical guy. Oh, so not the best written sentence you've ever heard. I hate clothes, never shop. Typical guy, but love two-way. So when you pitch Cozy Earth, I bought a pair of their pants. It's actually one of our more famous listeners. This program is available on the podcast. Please download it. But I decided not to identify him. I want to make him everyman. Because if you knew, like Scott Bell, just whatever, it's one of our famous ones.
He doesn't want to get blood on his clothes when he's kicking the crap out of people.
Exactly. Okay. All right. Let's go to our day book. Not much on the schedule. Slow starting September Monday. ABC News Radio is the pool at the White House, the new media seat, the Federalist, and the president has only one public event on his schedule. Shortly after we go off the air live, the president delivers remarks to the White House Religious Liberty Commission at the Museum of the Bible. Larry, do you have a membership in the Museum of the Bible?
Actually, it has lapsed, but I had a membership for a while. It's a great place. Love it.
Over the weekend, I was speaking at an event, and they played the clip of me asking Donald Trump about his favorite Bible verse, and truly, it never gets old. Larry, I asked him that the day he came down that big, beautiful escalator, the very day he announced for president. Only one news organization anchored live anchored live from the president's announcement at Trump Tower atrium. That was Bloomberg News, where I worked at the time. And for our troubles, we got an interview with the president, and that's where I famously asked him for his favorite Bible verse. You can look at the clip yourself. Congress is straggling back in. A few things going on the Hill today, but they'll be here. And they got about 3 weeks to figure out what to do about a government shutdown. Really not much else going on. So let's go to our first topic is the economy, Smarty. The economy. Scott Bessent on Meet the Press yesterday talking a lot about the economy. And then the president got asked about the price of beef yesterday. I don't know, is this when he was coming or going on his way either to or from the U.S. Open? Here's Donald J. Trump on beef and prices and tariffs. 103, please.
Mr. President, the price of beef continues to rise and other items keep going up. Is there any way to address the cost of beef?
Yeah, once it kicks in, once our policies kick in, the price of beef will be going down, just like the price of eggs went down and the price of a lot of other grocery items went down. Beef will go down. It'll all go down. Energy has gone way down. The price of gasoline has gone really, I mean, I think you'll be hitting $2 very soon. And it was $4.50 a little while ago. So energy's gone way down. That brings everything else with it. But beef has gone, as you know, for other reasons. The price of beef has gone up a little bit. It'll be coming down.
So every Democratic candidate in the country, both incumbents and people running for open seats and challengers, is trying to own the I can make viral videos like Mondami, but not be a socialist lane to try to get earned media coverage and raise money online. One of the most touted so far, a Democrat who often goes viral, Michigan Democrat Mallory McMorrow. Here is the video she put out over the weekend, pegged to the beginning of football season, which everybody seems to love. 104, please.
Football is back, and 7 hours of commercial-free football
Whopper
is not.
This is just the latest example of corporate greed ruining the things we love. Because it's not just commercials on TV. It's also your grocery store run, where chicken wings are gonna cost you 19 bucks. Or a bag of chips, $5. Even beer is getting more expensive. It's a 1-2 punch. Tariffs that are making everything more expensive, and corporations that are squeezing every last dime out of us. And if at some point this season you're headed to a game,
You can watch the whole thing.
You
You watch the whole thing online, and it goes on in that vein. Populist, anti-Trump, pro-consumer, talking like a normal person. You're going to see a lot of that, although not everyone can pull it off the way Mallory McMorrow can. Larry,
Yes.
on Friday, Dan and I went a little anti-Bessent on the economy. Neither of us, I can tell without having talked to Dan, were wholly reassured by the Treasury Secretary's pledge on Meet the Press that everything's just fine. Are the fundamentals of the economy strong, or is the data of last week beginning to cause you to go a bit wobbly, as Lady Thatcher might say?
Well, the jobs number was a little jarring, but I think that Bessent was magnificent over the weekend, explaining it and sort of putting it in perspective with some of the positive numbers like GDP growth, et cetera. But what you saw from Trump there is, this is right out of the school book of Barack Obama and Joe Biden, the first year of their administrations when the economy was somewhat soft. You blame the last guy and you got to, hey, just be patient, wait for our policies to kick in. Meanwhile, he is right about energy. And my understanding is energy is sort of a leading indicator, while beef and other products are sort of lagging indicators. When you get the energy costs down, that has a ripple effect and a domino effect, but it's not immediate. But eventually, because energy affects everything else, including a bag of chips and a bag of wings, the other costs will come down, but you start with energy, and that's what this administration's done.
Larry, are you thinking, Scott Bessent, that this is a fourth quarter thing or a Q1 of next year thing when things will actually be better, when I won't have to say when I go to order my lunch, I'll have some low energy for lunch?
Yeah, I don't know, but I know that the administration's hoping that it's a Q4 thing because that also coincides with Christmas shopping and all of the Black Friday numbers. And they want to have a success story and they want to have it soon.
Dan, I know you hope the economy booms, but I also know that you don't think it's going to, correct?
I honestly don't know. I mean, yes, I obviously hope it does, and you don't want to be cheerleading for it to tank. And I think Larry hit it, which is you hope that the best answer they have is judge us not today, but judge us tomorrow, and kind of try to move those goalposts. I think the voters are not, they haven't lost patience, but they're antsy. And you see this both in kind of economic data and in political data. I think if things start to turn around by January and people have a good holiday season, then Larry's right. They'll get credit. They'll say it just took a little bit of time. But if it doesn't, and people are still struggling and more inflation starts to pick up and job losses start happening, then the opposite happens. They say throw the bums out. And in a midterm, it's very easy, right? You can't take it out on Trump. You take it out on the person on the ballot.
Larry, the Wall Street analysts who not that long ago were predicting recession at a pretty high percentage probability are back talking about either recession or stagflation. Do you rule those out? Do you rule out that there'd be stagflation or recession?
Well, I think it depends on the interest rates. And listen, Trump has been very smart from day one, setting up the Fed as sort of some will call it a scapegoat, some will call it a straw man. Others will say that he's been very
I'll go with foil. How about foil?
a useful foil. And one could argue that the Fed has sort of played right into this. Mr. Powell has sort of been led right into the narrative that Trump wants. And so a lot of people were jumping up with the jobs numbers saying, yeah, this is why we need the interest rate cut. It wouldn't have happened if we had the interest rate cut. And I think there's some validity to that.
Well, but I mean, again, I go back to Powell's job is to look at the data. And as the data has gotten worse, they've shifted. The challenge with cutting rates, and we're I think about to find out, is does inflation then start to pick back up more? Because it's already slowly starting to reaccelerate. And that's the $1 million question. Can they juice the economy without inflation being touched?
Right. All right. We'll obviously keep talking about this forever, including up through the Fed meeting. Russia, since the summit in Anchorage, Putin has escalated the attacks on Ukraine, including last night, where they launched what is being described in terms of drones and missiles as the biggest attack yet of the war on Kyiv, including a government building. President Trump made some comments that people still don't quite get, saying European leaders are going to be in Washington either today or tomorrow, and said yes, there'd be more sanctions in response to a reporter's question, but also said Putin was his friend or he's close to Putin, and he was optimistic about ending the war. Not really sure where either of those two things came from or where they're going, but right now, I think the debate is there are going to be sanctions. Apparently, there's going to be more military arming of Ukraine. The question is it to get Russia to the table or is it to win the war? Here's our diplomatic correspondent, David Ignatius.
So, Joe, yesterday's attacks.
It's Mark, not Joe.
Largest of the war. More than 800 drones, 13 plus missiles, and more notably, they were on this. Many of them were on the center of Kyiv. The Council of Ministers was hit. That's a building that many of us, when we're in Ukraine, go visit officials, and has generally not been targeted in the war. What we're seeing is, I think, absolutely decisive, brutal statement by Vladimir Putin that he doesn't want a settlement of the war. He wants to win the war. And he's prepared to keep fighting until he gets what he wants, which is essentially a capitulation by the Ukrainian government on key security issues. He wants effective dominance of Ukraine's military. He certainly wants Ukraine out of NATO. President Trump had hoped, I think, admirably, that he might be able to settle this war. But the Alaska summit was a bust. And although he talked yesterday about being willing to impose economic sanctions against Russia, I think most people are guessing right now that's simply not going to be enough to alter the course of this war. That people are going to have to think seriously about more weapons, a more decisive posture for Ukraine's supporters, especially the European countries. But yesterday was a chilling day for anybody who hopes this terrible war can come to an end anytime soon. My feeling is it's going to continue a long while. The death and destruction are only going to get worse.
Dan, thoughts on what David said?
I mean, I think to a large extent he's right, which is it's pretty clear. So now that the summit in Alaska, while well-intentioned, did not have its intended effect. I don't think anyone believes there's going to be a three-way meeting anytime soon with the heads of state. And ultimately, the question is, how do you force Putin to take what we're saying in seriously? And I think, as we've talked about, I liked Besant's line about trying to cut, which collapses first, the Russian will or the Russian economy. But you got to go all in on that. And they are right to lean on the Europeans to stop buying oil. But at the same time, as we've talked about, you are going to have to send serious weaponry and let Putin know this isn't a one-time thing. You're not getting any further in the trench line.
Larry, where are the points of agreement or disagreement between you and David and you and Dan?
Not much, except think about what you just said, Dan. It's like, yeah, Europe shouldn't be buying Russian oil. Well, over €1 billion worth of Russian oil Europe bought last year. Why is that even on the table? Why in the hell do they continue to fund Putin's war machine? And then,
well, in part because the U.S. didn't object because they didn't want oil gas prices to rise during the election.
Well, at the time, but all during the Biden administration, you're right. But that was also at a time where we weren't as energy independent and pumping as much as we are now, so that we can actually be an alternative and other countries can be alternatives.
But the challenge, Larry, is if we ship $1 billion of our oil over, if they buy it, it's $1 billion less of oil here, to Mark's point, unless OPEC opens the spigot even more, right, which they might. We could ask our ambassador, Eric Adams, if talk to Saudi Arabia.
Exactly.
It might send prices up.
I hear you. All right. You know what? Yeah. Just for the sake of argument, I'll stipulate that. How serious are we about this war? How serious are the Europeans about this war?
Yeah. All right. Just exit question, and nobody knows. So just your spidey sense. Will the president act decisively this week on sanctions and a military plan? By Friday, will he have said something decisive about it? Dan?
No.
Larry?
On sanctions, yes, and look for more pressure on India and Europe with regard to energy. That's
this week.
Yes,
this week. Okay. All right. We'll see. All right.
And I say that only because this weekend, his remarks, I thought he showed more frustration and more anger toward Russia and Putin than I've seen this entire time. I think his patience is done.
Yeah, although again, as I said yesterday, there was a time when we was talking to reporters where he talked about his optimism about ending the war and about his good relationship with Putin. So classic, but not unbridled angry. All right, Bobby Kennedy. Lots of stories over the weekend about what's going on at HHS, about President Trump's seeming tolerance for the style there. Best quote I saw was in a story where a former Trump administration from Trump 1 HHS official, I believe, described the desired outcome as Maha without mayhem. Yeah. And that's what it is. Now, I heard from many of you. I misspoke. I said something wrong. I didn't misspeak. I was ill-informed by a senior congressional official who told me Bobby Kennedy said something he didn't. It was said at the hearing. I checked and was told, yes, that was wrong. It's my fault for relying on one source, and I apologize for that. But in general, you people are out of your minds. I say that with peace, love, and understanding. We need to have an adult conversation about Bobby Kennedy. He contains multitudes. As I said last week, there's stuff about him that's fantastic. I think he has done more to put a spotlight on serious public health problems, literally, than anyone in my lifetime. Truly historic. Even if he stepped down now, historic what he's done. At the same time, he says things that aren't true regularly, and members of Congress, including Republicans, agree. And that's not great for any public official, but particularly someone who deals with the public health of our kids. So we need to have an adult conversation about Bobby Kennedy's stewardship, not a hyper-partisan one. Thank you very much for your attention to that matter. Larry, what happens next? He did the Senate Finance hearing. He continues to work on autism. He's got some studies coming out. What happens next with Bobby Kennedy?
Listen, I think you painted the picture pretty well. He's got a pretty long leash right now from President Trump. And I think that as long as Kennedy continues focusing on getting data and getting information with regard to children and children's health, and yes, I'm interested in some of the autism information, and I'm open-minded about it. I have a son on the autism spectrum myself. And I don't think the American people feel like they've been getting the truth about this stuff. So whether he deals in hyperbole to try to get at that data or not, I think is something that's worthy of scrutiny. I think the reason why he's getting a lot of tolerance right now from the Trump base as well as from the Trump administration is that we've just lived through leaders at CDC and HHS and FDA lying on a regular basis about the pandemic. And I'm not saying one lie is equal to the other. What I'm saying is because of the lies we were all fed, he's given a little bit more tolerance to sort of investigate and bring out some of the truth right now.
Right. In honor of Sean, I'll say there are two things can be true at once. Kennedy calls out not just big food and big pharma. Kennedy calls out the fact that we don't have trust in the CDC.
Right.
That there's and the FDA, that there's decades of big government lies and incompetence and inefficiency that he calls out. That's fantastic. I'm all for it. I don't know who would be against it, except maybe knuckleheads in the Democratic Party. But that can be true. And at the same time, he can be taking positions that are at best inconsistent, often are false, and not in keeping with the best scientific data. Dan, how does your party deal with this? Because right now they've got Kennedy derangement syndrome, but that risks them getting on the wrong side of all the things that Kennedy talks about that are rightly popular.
Well, I think it goes to what Larry was just saying, which is that looking forward, if I were the, Kennedy people in the White House, when he's talking about cleaning up the food supply, he's talking about industry capture. He is on the 80-20 side. They have a winning message. When he is fixated on vaccines and blowing out agencies with all due respect to Larry, no data to support it, but long-term hunches or beliefs that he's held that aren't supported by facts, he is on the wrong side of 80-20 issues. And so I think as much, if I'm a Democrat, I would focus on one thing or two things: transparency and accountability. Where you have data, put it out there. But when he doesn't, and he just says, well, everybody knows and everybody tells me, sounds familiar. As you said, Mark, people say, that's my grandmother. Those are my kids. You've got theories that have no scientific basis, and you put, 1,000 experts out there who say, that's crazy.
Yeah,
they're going to say
most of what Bobby Kennedy, Larry, talks about does test 80-20 in his favor, in the favor of Maha. But Tony Fabrizio's poll, the president's own pollster, reported first by Bloomberg and now by other organizations, show support for vaccines in general tests 80-20 against the Kennedy position.
Yeah, vaccines in general. But then when you start to drill down on it, what about the current schedule we have? What about the number of vaccines that children are getting at very young ages? What about injecting every newborn with a Hep B vaccine when there's no indication that they're vulnerable to Hep B? That sort of thing actually starts to move that needle. And I just want to say, I mean, and I'm not talking about you two, I'm just saying from the perspective of most Trump supporters, and frankly, I think most Americans, the loudest voices criticizing Robert Kennedy Jr. right now are the same voices in the media or in the Democrat Party who still think that Anthony Fauci was 100% honest. And
John Barrasso criticized him. He didn't celebrate Fauci. It's just not true, Larry.
I don't remember Barrasso coming out and criticizing Fauci. I remember Barrasso.
No. I'm saying.
I think that most Americans believe that under COVID, while mistakes were made, it was the best of intentions, and they got more right.
Including Donald Trump.
Right. And they got more right than they got wrong. They got stuff wrong. And the 6 feet stuff, I mean, it's embarrassing that they say, well, we just kind of made it up. But this is where sometimes I think Trump supporters confuse their base with America.
Correct.
Over 50% of Republicans believe in vaccines generally. I hear you, Larry. We should always be asking about schedules and should this happen and should that happen. The problem is Kennedy has held views for 20 years.
Yeah.
And he's really been out there that I just believe that, this causes this and this causes that. And scientists have said, okay, show us your data. And he's like,
We got to move on. Again, raise your hand if you want to end the conversation. We're going to speed through 4 final topics and then get to your questions. Please raise your hand if you'd like to be on the conversation.
Issue. I want to keep talking about it.
And just to be clear, when I espouse peace, love, and understanding, it doesn't mean that I forswear calling people morons when they are. I have to balance that, but I do it nicely. I do it.
Noted.
Yeah. Okay. Drug dealers being killed. This seems simple to me. A lot of debate over the weekend about it, and the administration still has not given a clear public or congressional briefing on what the justification is. If you think that we are at war with drug cartels, then killing people on boats who you believe are drug dealers is like killing people in Iraq during the Iraq War. You're killing people. That's what happens in a war. You kill people without giving them due process. If you believe that this is the dangerous use of the military for law enforcement activity, then yeah, it's a big problem. But I have a pretty good idea where public opinion will be on this if it's ever polled correctly. Dan, is this something that should be not just a political fight, but a substantive fight? Or is it, as many in the administration believe, pretty plain and simple? We're at war with drug dealers. It's a war. You don't have due process in war.
Top line. Yeah, no. I mean, I'm trying. Top line, I agree with you. There's no sympathy for drug dealers. Americans believe that drugs is a problem in this country. It has been for 40 years. That a lot of them come in from overseas. They will have public opinion generally with them. I think the challenge is you blow up one of these speedboats and it turns out it was, family out. And
do you know how many families we killed in the Iraq War?
No,
do you know how many families we killed in? Do you know how many families we killed in Vietnam? Do you know how many families Zelensky's killed? It's a war.
I hear you, but Mark, that is where we as a country have gotten into trouble in said wars. What do we talk about with the Israeli and Palestinians? When Palestinian hospitals are blown up, even though there's a military base underneath them, a lot of people cringe. So my point is they have the public on their side. I would not try to defend drug dealers, but I would just say, boy, I hope they get this right more often than they potentially get it wrong, because it could backfire if it starts happening in the other direction, which is to say, what if another country says, we're going to start doing the same thing?
Yeah.
And they hit an American boat. Yeah. And it's not drug dealers.
Well, if we accidentally, the U.S. military at times has accidentally killed people at weddings, right? We've done that. Same thing.
Yeah.
Larry.
Right, exactly. The Biden administration killed a family going to a wedding in Afghanistan and we're told it was to get the terrorists who did the Abbey Gate attack, and it wasn't. But I think what's going on here, first of all, Tren de Aragua, we're told we're on that boat. They are defined right now, like it or not, as a terrorist organization. All right. So it's not just the drug issue, because Tren de Aragua also, they're a criminal terrorist operation that deals with kidnapping innocent people, murdering innocent people. And under those terms of engagement, this was a lawful act, if you like it or not. And that's the situation with it. That's the legal basis for the attack against this boat. And the only people who are claiming that they weren't Tren de Aragua right now is Maduro.
Yeah.
And the Venezuelan government.
Yeah. All right. 3 quick things we won't discuss. I'll just tick them off, and then we'll talk about one more topic and then your questions. Guy who tried to kill President Trump allegedly in Florida goes on trial. His trial starts today with jury selection. The South Korean government's coming to pick up the people who allegedly were here illegally working at a plant in Georgia. We're going to talk more about that story in the coming days. And we're still waiting to see what's going on in Chicago. No action there yet, as far as we know. But the president's advisor on Homeland Security talked pretty tough yesterday, and I suspect there'll at minimum be a ICE action in Chicago, as there was in Boston over the weekend. All right, gentlemen, 108. Please put up 108. Sherman and Peabody, 2 of the finest cartoon characters in American history. Sherman is Sherman the dog or is Sherman the boy?
Sherman's the boy. He's Mr. Peabody's pet boy, if I remember right.
Yeah. All right. So Sherman and Peabody. Why are we looking
at Mr. Peabody, by the way?
Why are we looking at Sherman and Mr. Peabody? Because over the weekend, the latest example of one of the things that has made me more frustrated in my career than anything else. Here is Christian Welker asking Wes Moore if he's going to run for president. 107, please.
All right, Governor, finally, before I let you go, you have not announced you're running for re-election. If you do you commit to serve a full term?
Yes, I'll be serving a full term. I'm excited about re-election. I'm excited about what I'm going to be able to do for the people of Maryland.
Do you rule out a run for president, Governor?
Yeah, I'm not running for president.
You rule it out?
Yes, I'm
You
not running for
completely
president.
rule it out?
I'm so excited about what we're doing, that we've gone from 43rd in the country in unemployment to now one of the lowest unemployment rates. We've had amongst the fastest drops in violent crime anywhere in the United States of America. Our population is growing. Maryland is moving. And so I'm really excited about going back in front of the people of my state and asking for another term.
All right. So the headlines out of that interview initially were Wes Moore isn't going to run for president. He's flatly ruled it out. No, no, no. Ruling it out requires being Sherman-esque. Sherman-esque, meaning you make it absolutely clear. Saying, I am not running, present tense, believe me, is not Sherman-esque. Peabody, you will not win a Peabody Award as far as I'm concerned. One of the most exalted designations in all of journalism. If you fall for this, Bill Clinton, 1990, running for re-election as governor, swore to the voters of his state in a debate, I will not run. Barack Obama on Meet the Press to Tim Russert, 2006, I believe.
Yeah, it was May. It was the first one with the spring.
Said, I will not run for president. It doesn't matter what they say, but it especially doesn't matter if they put it in the present tense. I am not running for president means nothing. No one's running right now. Please, please, my colleagues. Larry, how can we get people to stop writing stories saying Wes Moore takes himself out? It's meaningless.
I've got a better question. When are we going to get people like Kristen Welker who have the opportunity to actually ask important, meaningful questions when you've got a governor sitting across from you? I would, if I were in Kristen Welker's shoes, I live in Maryland. Governor Moore, why are you decrying President Trump's efforts in Washington, D.C. when your own fellow Democrat, Mayor Muriel Bowser, is embracing the use of federal troops to be able to help law enforcement? And why are you now mobilizing state police in Baltimore now, 3 years after you became governor? Aren't you just doing that because of Donald Trump? That would have been, but instead she wasted her time with this. What, you think Governor Moore is going to say, okay, you got me, Kristen. I wasn't going to announce it, but I'll announce it now. I'm running for president. It never happens that way. So why waste our time with that?
Yeah. Dan, is Wes Moore going to run?
Yes, he is. And I think, look, I think you just ask once, because Tim Russert, when he asked Barack Obama in October of 2006, Obama had a different answer. That made news.
Right.
But to your point, it's like when people ask Trump, he would always say in 2022, 2021, I'll be making an announcement about that soon.
Right.
Like he just, that's it.
So, my general advice to doing interviews is don't ask any question they're expecting. So if you want to ask the presidential question, ask it some new way. For instance, here's one way I like to ask it, although it's not new anymore, but this example of it is, Governor, what would cause you not to run for president? That's better. That's at least you got a shot.
How about this one?
Yeah.
Governor, you campaigned for Kamala Harris, and she only had 107 days to run, and you told us she would best be the president of the United States. Shouldn't she be the nominee by acclamation from your party?
There you go. Except never ask a yes/no. Never ask a yes/no question. So the question would be:
will you support Kamala Harris if she runs?
Right. That's good. That's a good one. Another way to ask it is, Governor, what's the Democratic Party going to be looking for in a nominee? That would be more interesting than another round of, are you running for president? All right, now time for your questions. In a moment, as always, please raise your hand, get in on the conversation, and we'll want to know where you are and hear what's on your mind for Larry and for Dan. But first, a word from a new sponsor. Dan, we've got a new sponsor. You know who the new sponsor is? Yeah, it's Lean. Fad diets, don't do them. Juices, cleanses, cabbage soup, raw food, not recommended, because then you yo-yo, you go up and down. Weight cycling. Doctors do not recommend you weight cycle. You lose a lot of weight, you run all sorts of risks. Diabetes, liver damage, heart attack, and stroke. To go up and down, losing weight, gaining weight. Most people, bottom line, need to stop weight cycling. And the best way to do that is not with prescriptions or things like GLP-1s, injectables. Lean is an oral supplement, non-prescription. Its ingredients target weight loss in 3 powerful ways: maintain healthy blood sugar, control appetite and cravings, helps burn fat by converting it to energy. Burning fat helps, of course, keeps weight off. All right, if you want to give this a try, meaningful way to lose weight without drugs, prescriptions, or dangerous chemicals, go to lean.com. Lean.com. Code is Mark for 20% off when you enter the code Mark. Lean.com. Give it a try. All right, here we go. Your questions now. Maureen is first, even though she's not new. Maureen, you haven't been here in a while. Were you in Bombay? Where were you, Maureen? Or just sleeping in?
Working.
Why haven't you been here, Maureen? Where have you been? Unmute. There you go. Where you been, Maureen?
I've been here every day. I've been watching you since the very beginning of the
All
show.
Right. But not raising your hand much.
No, because I usually watch it when I'm in LA.
Yeah.
It's very early, and so I always listen to it on YouTube.
All right. What's all that gear? What's all that gear behind you, Maureen?
Oh, that's all my what we call hardware from,
Yeah.
you know, many from
Challenge.
decades in law
Did,
enforcement.
did you solve crimes with that stuff?
I did.
Yeah. All right. It's
Yeah.
cool looking. Looks a little analog for me, but still. Maureen lives in
Don't be
California.
making fun of my background now,
No,
Mark.
No. It's cool looking. I'm not making fun of it at all.
Right.
It's
As
like
the man in front of a blank
like,
white wall.
exactly. It's like the Bat Cave. Anyway, for
It
those
is
who
the
don't
Bat
know,
Cave.
Maureen lives in Southern California, former FBI agent, a longtime member of our community, and now we're going to find out what's on your mind, Maureen.
Well, you said you had questions for me, but the one thing
Yeah,
I'd
well, I
like to
do.
say about that shooting that boat out of the drug dealers out of the water, the one thing no one's talking about is because I work gangs in Los Angeles, or drugs and drugs in Los Angeles for 15 years or longer, and they probably had fantastic intel on that boat, that whole shipment coming forward, because we have a lot of informants here, there, everywhere, and they knew that that boat was likely coming here. They knew it had fentanyl or whatever else it had in it. As soon as I saw it, that's exactly what I thought. They have this thing dead to rights. They know who's on it, and they know, in large part, at least a couple of people, and they knew exactly what they were bringing to Los Angeles. And once they get past a certain point, if you talk to the Coast Guard, we've done a ton of briefings with the Coast Guard. We work very closely with them, and they'll try to interdict some of these shipments in the seas, but they'll pull up to a number of times to Laguna Niguel or Laguna Beach right there. And then boom, these guys are in the wind. So once they hit shore, it's really, really hard to seize that shipment.
Yeah.
Maureen, go ahead, Dan.
Maureen, is it possible, given that we have informants and other things that you don't want to reveal sources and methods, but is there a way that the government could say, hey, we had it on very good intent, and they either brief members of Congress or something? I think the problem is saying trust us is hard, right? Because historically, we don't necessarily trust our government when it just says trust us. Is there a way to kind of show some evidence?
Dan, the problem with that is you tell Congress anything and you may as well,
broadcast it.
You may as well broadcast it. They do not understand the importance of loose lips sink ships. And if they're not saying anything right now, it's because they don't want to burn their informants. If any information like that got out, people would start dying. The informant and probably other people also.
Yeah.
So no, it's not going to get out, and you cannot trust these people. So this is more of the stoic mindset where it's like, hey, we're going to do what we have to do, and then we'll litigate it later.
Yeah. Thank you, Maureen. And by the way, my parents used to live in Laguna Beach, so that's.
Oh.
Maureen, I wanted to ask you an Epstein question, but there's something else you want to talk about?
Could I just quickly? I also want to follow up real fast in terms of this was the fact that they put this video out. There's a deterrent effect to this, isn't it, Maureen?
Absolutely.
Talk about that a little bit.
Well, the deterrent effect for all crime is important. It's like hook 'em, book 'em. We're not taking this anymore. Move on. And it even goes into the whole concept of Trump going into DC or into Chicago or whatever.
Right.
He just wants to show that police presence makes a difference. It's a deterrent. Yep. And law enforcement numbers are down like never seen before. Applications are down, and people are just bailing from law enforcement because, you guys, law enforcement officers are traumatized. They're asked to do whatever the massive failure is in this society. It falls squarely on the shoulders of law enforcement officers. They're supposed to be ninja warriors, jujitsu masters, master negotiators, social workers, and everything else. It's ridiculous. No one has that type of breadth in their skill set. And every person every citizen, as a general rule, will experience between 1 and 3 traumatic events in their life. Statistics show that law enforcement officers have between 600 and 800 traumatic events throughout their career. These people are traumatized, and we're just throwing them to the wolves. There's no other occupation in this country where people are allowed to be treated the way we treat our law enforcement officers. It's ridiculous. So I hope that's going to be next on Trump's thing, because we have to do something to get them signing back up again to be law enforcement officers and to understand that it's a noble profession, which it is.
All right, Maureen, you ask your question, then I'm going to ask you my
well
Epstein
said.
question.
Ghislaine Maxwell,
Yeah.
it wasn't a question. I was just going
Yeah.
to say, guys, she's working a case with someone. Everyone's like, why'd she go to an ESER
Minimum
facility?
security.
Minimum
Yeah.
security, because she's working with someone. When I had high-level informants, I took a high-level informant out of a prison, and he was going to be in there for life, and I moved him to a local jail so that I could debrief him every day. He was helping me with other cases. I had an informant that was a Mexican mafia member that had killed a bunch of people. We had to move him. And not only was he helping us work cases, he was also reviewing information on other ongoing cases where he would say, this is a code word, this is what this means, this is what, and he would help us with our methods and tactics working these other investigations. And then he would testify for us if need be. So she's moved to another location because they're using her to, and I don't mean using her, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. So here's my question, because it relates to Maxwell. Thank you for that. I think that's as good a theory as anybody's offered, unless
it's not just a theory, Mark.
Really? Oh, you know who she? Well, so
No,
meaning
I'm kidding.
Me. Okay.
It just happens all the time. It's
of
a
course,
rather frequent thing.
I mean, the alternative is that they moved her to reward her because they're about to pardon her. That's the other theory, of course. She said no one ever interviewed her. No one from the government ever tried to talk to her. Is that plausible, that when she was under investigation that no one ever tried to talk to her?
Well, it doesn't happen all the time, but I have heard of instances like this where during an investigation, but not an investigation this big. I find that almost impossible to believe, to be honest.
Yeah, I do too. It makes me suspicious that something's not right. Maureen, thank you for coming back. Please come regularly. We love having you on.
Wait, I also wanted to say I'm mad at
yeah.
Dan on Friday. First time ever I got mad at you, Dan, because you were saying, we've always been for questioning science. More questions, the better. That's what we stand for. When you guys just destroyed the lives of medical doctors who spoke out against the COVID vaccines and the mandates and everything. I mean, I'm sure. Am I the only one that was jumping through the screen that day?
I think, Maureen, I was speaking kind of broadly, not the conversation is kind of fixated on that moment in COVID. I think in the same conversation, I've said repeatedly, and I think I said it earlier today, the party has not admitted where it got stuff wrong during COVID.
It was so much more than that, Dan. It was destroying lives, shutting down any conversation. People were walking around like, I don't even want to say anything. I don't even want to say that, I have questions because this thing is brand new and it was pushed through. Americans were afraid.
I think in real time, I believe you and I may disagree that the government, both governments, Trump 1 and Biden 2, or Biden 1, had the best of intentions while they were drinking from the fire hose. They got stuff wrong. Trump got stuff wrong in his first term on COVID, and Biden got stuff wrong. And if you want to have trust, you have to admit where you got stuff wrong.
But only
I don't think they thought around saying how to people. I think they thought it was a health crisis, and they thought that wearing the masks and the vaccines and everything was the right solution. It turns out they got some of it wrong.
Dan, but deplatforming, demonetizing, and destroying people's lives is in a totally different arena, in my opinion.
Well, look, I mean, the Democrats would say, take a look at some of the stuff happening now. So, I mean, look,
they're not getting deplatformed. We're all for free speech, but okay.
Thanks for
that. That's a much longer conversation. I would not say that is the case on the right now.
Maureen,
and the golf tournament. I really wish Dan would have been, or Sean would have been here, because I want to talk about that big golf tournament.
Golf or tennis?
Golf, the one that, remember, one of the two-way members suggested early on that we should have for the 250th anniversary. We should have a huge nationwide golf tournament.
Yeah. All right. Well, when Sean's here, come back. We'll plan it. Maureen, thank you. Appreciate it. Sam, welcome in. Thanks for being part of Two Way. Tell folks that don't know where you are, what's on your mind.
guys. Good to be with you. Coming to you from Groton, Connecticut. And
the
I've
nuclear
had,
subs.
Let's go submarines.
Yeah, since his hearing, the reaction to Kennedy, well, the hearing itself, from especially the questioning from the Dems and then the reaction in the media, has had me a bit exercised, because I feel like this is a really kind of a make or break issue for the country, whether we want to be satisfied with the status quo, where the sickest wealthy nation in the world, and so-called healthcare is the third leading cause of death, according to a 2018 study published by Johns Hopkins. And we spend about 50% of what the world spends in total on pharmaceutical drugs. Or do we want to move towards, curing chronic illness through, reforms, through getting corruption out of scientific research and out of the agencies and out of the.
Yeah. I love the way you framed it, but all I'd say is we shouldn't have to choose between those two. We shouldn't have to. It shouldn't be. We need to fix the system, but we have to take the mayhem, because the mayhem's not good.
Well,
You know
and that's where, too, you raised like 4 different issues, and they're all valid. And I think most of the country would say those are the right questions. But when you go to trying to eliminate, like Florida, saying kids don't have to get any vaccines anymore, it freaks parents out, because some of those vaccines are absolute. The polio vaccine is a good thing. Us ridding the world of polio is an outstanding achievement. Us making sure that kids are healthy and safe, and grandparents, is an outstanding accomplishment. Most Americans have concerns about their government. They want questions asked. They don't think the government is entirely, completely, 100% corrupt and has to be destroyed. That is where sometimes MAGA and MAHA confuse where the silent majority of this country is and where they are.
Yeah. I don't think that it's the position of the Health and Human Services Secretary to destroy the public health institutions. And I think.
Do you think he thinks they have to be torn down and rebuilt?
I think that you and your party have not, and the media for that matter, have not yet come to terms with the damage that was done to our public health institutions during the pandemic and what was fed to it. And I know that you can say it was the fog of war. They were doing their best, but
I have
Larry,
that Larry, I've come to terms with that. But like Senator Barrasso and the gentleman from Louisiana, I just don't want mayhem at the top of the scientific
I don't
agency.
think most people believe that it's mayhem. The people who have left the CDC and accused Secretary Kennedy of doing things were part of the problem in
that
the
is not true. That is absolutely not true.
Some of them, yes, but some of them were Kennedy hires.
The ones that have been jumping
Larry, people doing research,
the ones that have been doing their media tours were part of the problem.
You know what, but Larry, this is where, and as a Democrat, I encourage you guys to keep speaking this way.
Okay.
Scientists working on kids' diabetes are not deep staters who went out there off the reservation. This is where you guys are going to lose the public. There were mistakes made, but the idea that place and all these people fired were Fauci.
I just say something. You keep saying there were mistakes made.
Hold on, Larry, because Alexandra's laughing very hard at this conversation. So Samuel, stay with us. But Oscar, what's so funny? I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean that in a seriously. Like, why are you laughing at this?
He's talking about mayhem. It was mayhem before. I mean, that's what's funny to me. Like,
yeah, I denounced the past. I denounced the status quo, and I denounced mayhem.
I appreciate that, Dan. But here's the question: who from the CDC or the Biden administration or from Health and Human Services back when that mayhem was going on, who paid a price for it? Who was accountable? Who actually?
The entire party got wiped out in 2020.
That's politics. I'm talking about the human. That doesn't do anything for children who lost 3 years of schooling and were told.
Amen, Larry. You're 100% right. You're 100% right.
I hear you, Larry. That's why I've said it was a mistake to keep the schools closed.
That's what I mean when I say people haven't come to terms with that. There are still parents.
All right, hold on. Let's let Mr. Jenks in one more time, then Ms. Howard. Mr. Jenks, do you have anything you want to say in conclusion, or are you all done?
There's one more point to feed into this. The New York Times had two articles this year, one about fraud in Alzheimer's research as an example. And one of them was called "The Devastating Legacy of Lies in Alzheimer's Science." I suggest checking it out. It's bone chilling, and leaves you with the impression that we cannot trust the science, because scientists are motivated by the same things other people are motivated by: for money, for reputational integrity, for the approbation of their peers.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Robert Kennedy's perfect. I do, however, believe that, like, if he says something false, he believes it to be true. I don't think he's a liar.
Yeah.
I agree.
I don't know if you're the cabinet secretary, I don't know that you get a pass because you believe lies. But thank you. Let me say it this way, okay? Playing off what Larry said. Thank you, Samuel. The left in this country is either playing dumb or is dangerously, willfully blind to how angry, with justification, people on the right are about what happened, not just during COVID, but with the deep state implications for medicine, for our kids, and for science. The left must come to terms with that. But Larry, you must come to terms with how frightened half or more of the country is about what's happening now. Don't defend what's going on simply by pointing to what happened in the past. Think about why they're upset. Think about why they're concerned. That's no better than what the left is doing about the recent past. It's no better.
I take your point. I think the problem is when you consider the source of the criticism of Kennedy, that it would be
John Barrasso.
Look, again, and guys, Larry, if we're going to talk about inconsistency, then both parties basically have to go home, right? Because both parties are completely inconsistent on half the things out there. That's been the history of politics since the beginning of time. Again, we have an 80-20 issue here.
Yep.
Alexandra, and every poll, even Republican, says it.
Alexandra, please. Alexandra, hold on. We want to get at least Alexandra and maybe one more. Alexandra, go ahead.
Well, what's been happening hasn't been working. And so if you want something to change, you have to change something.
Well, that's where I would disagree with you about vaccines and that science in general. We are the most innovative country in the world. We've solved more health crises than anywhere in the world. Don't confuse. It doesn't work. Could be better.
Okay,
don't say it doesn't work.
Hold on. Ellen, unmute, please. We want to get you in before we need to go. So here's Ellen. Ellen, tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind for Larry and for Dan.
Well, I'm in Germany right now, but I have a house in New York. So I just wanted to add to this that I don't think that it's even just the COVID time, that it's, cumulatively, I think people have felt that you can't really trust the science. I'll just remind you that in New York City, you can get out of getting vaccines for your kids on religious reasons. That's not science.
Well, that's the Constitution.
And, and another one, my kids are in their 20s and 30s, but at one point, probably around child number 3, I had a friend who worked in high places in banking who was in one of those meetings with the pharmaceutical company that was trying to push through one of the vaccines for kids. And it's not one of the important ones. It's not the polio or the measles, but they were pushing it through. And he came home and said, we are not giving our kids that shot, because he watched the greed basically won that thing. So that's just, I don't think it's, that's not a Democrat or Republican side. It's a power. It's people wanting to keep their power. And so my question actually to you guys is, if you could get rid of RFK, who's somebody that could fill that spot, who can still shake things up and get to the truth that we're all wanting? I heard you guys say that the other day, and I thought, okay, who's the better? Who do you have in mind that would be good?
Great question. Larry, you got a candidate if RFK somehow goes away?
I'm a big fan of our current head of the FDA, Marty McCary. He's a Johns Hopkins doctor. He was I had him on my program because we're local to Johns Hopkins in DC. He was a very, very sober and intelligent voice on public health policy. Most of the people who are passionate about this issue, like I am, our passion is out of an understanding that we need a credible public health policy in this country. When you say a poll, Dan, says that 80% of Americans believe in vaccines. I'm one of those 80%. I believe in vaccines. But when you drill down further into that poll and you reveal how many vaccines our children get before the age of 3 and what the schedule looks like and the lack of transparency and the lack of accountability on a lot of those vaccines, then you get a very different question. This isn't so cut and dry of, oh, well, you're either anti-science or pro-science. This is about public health policy. I would pick Marty McCary but I don't think we're getting rid of Kennedy.
Yeah. Dan, thoughts if Kennedy decided to go do something else?
Dr. John off this platform would be phenomenal. But I mean, look, I would agree with Larry. Someone who is a doctor, someone who brings data and facts to the conversation, if they've held these theories, hopefully they're not, there isn't this long paper trail. Let the science and the data guide you to your answers, not, long held convictions. And you look for data to match your conviction.
I'm sure I'll be hammered on this because I'm basing this on a relationship of 10 years ago. But Bobby Jindal, former governor of Louisiana.
Oh, yeah, Louisiana.
Larry, is he in good stead with MAGA these days? I don't even know.
He hasn't been on the radar in a while, but I think he is. Very good with health policy and medical funding and
knows a lot about public policy and health. A brilliant guy, a lot of integrity. So I'd be for him, but again, not if he wouldn't be vetoed. Ellen, thank you. What are you doing in Germany?
My husband's working here. We just got sick of New York for a while. So
are you from New York State or New York City?
New York City, Queens, which my follow-up question, which has nothing to do with health except my own, is when should I sell my house? Should I wait till he becomes mayor, or how long do I wait before we sell?
Might be too late. You have a couple weeks, but I wouldn't wait much longer than that. Ellen, thank you. Grateful to you for being part of Two Way. All right. Larry, earlier on, Maureen said everyone in life will go through three traumatic, not law enforcement, three traumatic events in their lifetime. I feel like you've had two today.
Really?
Right here on this program. No, just making sure you do.
I don't feel traumatized at all.
You're doing all right. All right.
Sean Spicer is the luckiest man in media.
Yeah. Speaking of Sean Spicer, although he's skipping this program today for cause, as we say at the Fed, he's got Blago on his program tonight. So look forward to that. Meghan McCain back, Citizen McCain, noon Eastern time today. Please check it out. Guy Benson of the Guy Benson Show on Fox News Radio will be your guest. Larry, I don't know why you didn't choose that as the name of your show, the Guy Benson Show.
It was already taken. Yeah.
Yeah. Seems like a
I'm
name.
a big Guy and I are old friends, and we both work at Town Hall together.
He's a very smart guy. All right. Two-way tonight. Okay. Two-way tonight. Not one, not two, not three, but four guests.
All-star here.
First of all, Dan's colleagues from the group chat, Emma Jo Morris and Nina Turner, will be here. Rachel Bade of Politico, or what it was called in its original incarnation, The Politico. Rachel broke a huge story this morning, which you can read now, about Scott Bessent and Mr. What's his name? Pulte. Bill Pulte, is that his name? Bill Pulte, getting into confrontation at a big dinner in Washington at that new club. Larry, you been to that big new club?
I haven't. I know. I feel like
reporters aren't supposed to be allowed to go. Somebody just asked me if I'd have dinner there, and I said I don't think reporters are allowed. And he checked, and no, I'm not allowed to go. But anyway,
I'm a radio host. That's called, I have different rules.
Yeah. It's called the Executive Committee. Is that what it's called? The Executive something. Anyway, read Rachel's story and come to Two-Way tonight, and Rachel will talk you through why Scott Bessent nearly came to blows with the member.
And you'll get my reference when I start the show about how Bessent would go beat the heck out of somebody.
That's what Dan was referencing. And then David Bonson, managing partner of the Bonson Group, will also be joining to talk about the economy. So tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern time, please join us. And we're here all week, as they say. Larry is going to be at Chuckles in Dayton Tuesday through Thursday. So don't miss that. And Dan, what do you got coming up this week? Anything we should know about?
I'm going to go see a lot of people in Washington, D.C. and Capitol Hill to hear the latest on how Democrats are thinking.
Yeah, so if you're on Capitol Hill,
you see me.
DC, if you see Dan, just point and say, that looks just like Dan Turrentine. You say it's a Lamar Alexander joke, although it's not his originally. Somebody comes up to Dan and says, did anybody ever tell you look just like Dan Turrentine? And he says, yeah, I get that all the time. And that person says, you must hate that. One of my favorite political jokes. All right. Thank you for watching. We'll be back in 23 hours. Sean will be back. Larry, always so grateful to have you on.
Thank
you for making time. And we'll see y'all. I'll see you all at 6 p.m. tonight for Two-Way tonight. Thank you for being part of the Two-Way community. Good night. Good luck. Have a wonderful day. Go Bills.
Wow.